Oh, I got yelled at. I got yelled at, everybody, from the lawn. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle House. And in this video, we got ourselves a reaction to a reaction of one of my videos. Haven for Heroes destroyed me with facts and logic. And so now I feel like I have to, make a response to his video. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. It's not antagonistic. Haven for Heroes made a video calling me out a little bit on some of the things that I said in a previous stream. And a few people had sent me some clips. And, I felt like I kind of needed to do a little bit of a reaction, even though I haven't seen the complete video. Some of the clips I saw, I felt like were a little bit of a mischaracterization of what I was saying. So I felt like, hey, you know what? Maybe it'd be fun to do a recording, of his view so I can give my added context into it. And then we can have a conversation here on the internet, like how everybody communicates now in 2024, which is not face-to-face, and we just talk online, So we can do that. We can play the YouTube meta of reacting to reacting to reacting. Now, for added context, Haven for Heroes is another YouTube channel. He's doing his thing over there. It seems like he has also an LCS that he runs, a very, very cool business. He put out a video talking about, CGC a couple weeks ago that went viral, kind of within our niche. So, he's doing his thing over there. I've never met, him or talked to him. I got the chance to see him on Beyond Wednesdays, Brian McClay's show. So, definitely go check him out over on that channel and go check out Brian McClay for sure. But yeah, he made a response to one of my streams. And I think he took issue with something I said about LCSs, although I think it was taken out of context, at least from the clips that I saw. But we're going to have this conversation here together. But of course, before I get into it, if you guys could like, comment, subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Help support the channel, doing all those things. CGC update and more lawn yelling Swaggle House. Lawn yelling Swaggle House. All right, here we go. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hey there, everyone. Here we are again. Yeah, and I'm ready to get back out on the lawn. Everybody has been doing CGC drama shows over and over again. There's new news dropping every day. I wouldn't be surprised if...
Really quick, honest question. Is it really drama about CGC? I mean, I know it's drama, but sometimes I get the sense when people say like, oh, everyone's doing CGC drama videos, there's sort of this like subtext behind it, which is like, as if to say, oh, you're farming this drama, as opposed to just talking about the news, which I kind of feel like it's really more news and kind of what's going on in the current climate within our hobby. So is it drama? I mean, I guess it's a little bit of both. And I try not to like overdo the drama aspect of it. I try to just give information and keep people informed on my channel. I mean, if I really wanted to farm drama, I think that there's a lot of stuff that you could farm with it. But I'm curious about that. Honest question. Is it drama to talk about CGC? I view it as just information and sort of covering current affairs.
When you see this, there's something else out. I'm a little bit behind, but you guys all know, hopefully you give me a little bit of a slack, because I still work a full-time job and still run the shop and still trying to do a little bit of YouTube. We had Reggie's doing a ton of CGC stuff. We had a whole conversation on Beyond Wednesday. Great crew, man. They cracked me up.
Give Brian a follow. Go follow Beyond Wednesdays. That was the show I saw, so I got to see Haven for Heroes on there. And yeah, it's a great show. Great show over there.
What a blast. I got to shout out to them. Thank you so much for having me on and letting me spew all my madness. I kind of think a little bit different than a lot of people, so I got a lot of opinions that need to be heard. One of the ones that I saw that I have to take a little bit of umbrage with, because I think that we were kind of painted with a big brush, was Swaggle House. He did these open letters to CGC, CBCS, collectors, and LCSs. But before,
I thought the letters were pretty fun. I thought it was fun. Hopefully you guys liked it and understood the humor behind it.
Before he got to LCSs, when he was talking about the scam that happened at CGC, he goes, well, if you think that was a scam, think of all the collections that were purchased for next to nothing by all these LCSs. That's the real scam. I take on...
Okay. That's the part that I think someone sent to me, and I feel like is a mischaracterization of what I said. In order to understand what I said, I think you have to understand the context of it. Like I already mentioned, this is coming from a stream where I did a letters to the hobby, where I was acting like a Karen and being intentionally sort of controversial in my opinions. I mean, they are my opinions, but I'm also being very, very performative in the whole thing. And the section he's actually talking about is a letter that I had to what I call the Never Slabbers. And what I mean by the Never Slabbers is, in the wake of the CGC scandal, there's obviously been a lot of people within our hobby who have been, a big voice of CGC is the scam, grading is the scam, this is finally our time to take down grading companies. And that's fine. They can have those opinions. But my letter to them was just to offer an alternative view as to why I do think grading is important and why I think it is necessary. And so I had a letter to them. I talked about some of the important aspects to grading. And one of the things that I did say, which is what grading does help, is that it helps protect a lot of people who don't know about comic books. So if you're somebody who is a comic book collector and you get your comic books graded and then you pass and then your family inherits those comic books, well, when your family goes to sell it and they don't know anything about the collections they inherited, they're going to be better protected by having those comic books graded because they're more likely going to get a fair market value for them than if it was just a raw short box where they didn't know what they had. And I was being a little bit flippant in what I said. Think of all the LCSs that have absolutely taken people, from buying their collections who, just didn't know. They came into a shop and they said, oh, this is my, grandpa's collection. And they just sold it. And I'm not saying that all LCSs do that. I'm just saying that also is part of this scam. And when I was referring to like people saying CGC is the scam, I'm also saying, hey, sometimes there are reasons for that. There are good reasons for grading, and that it protects people as well. And again, I'm not saying everybody does it. I'm just saying that was kind of what I was talking about within that context.
Bridge to that Swaggle House. It seems like a lot of the people who don't have a sign outside and pay their rent and their taxes on selling books have a problem with the people who do. He did later on say,
wait, I definitely don't have a problem with people who sell books. And I definitely don't have a problem with comic book stores buying collections. Like, that's a part of the hobby. Dealers and stores are very important. They provide a tremendous value. More so, LCSs provide tremendous value for the comic book hobby. I mean, they are the mecca and they are a central community building hub for comic book collecting. I mean, I made that mention in one of my reels where I talked about my issues with Marvel and DC publishing and how they do nothing for the community, and how LCSs have been doing all of the work on behalf of those publishing companies and to build those communities. And this is the value that they provide. This is why they should be making, a markup on anything that they sell, and why they should be able to, buy collections for a little less so that they can make a profit, because they provide tremendous service for the community that they exist in.
In his show, that how much he loved LCSs and we need LCSs, but there's a little bit of bile when he was talking about how we cheated people.
Again, that was the bit. That was the performative letter. I was being a Karen. That was the joke.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about collections that come to me. A lot of times people don't bring me the collection right away. They put it out at a yard sale. And who comes by? Because I'm here at the shop. I'm not out running the yard sales. Mr. Flipper comes by and he buys up all the key issues and he leaves the people with all the junk. Instead of buying everything, they take just the key issues, or even one or two key issues. And they're even picking apart the condition at $1 or 50 cents. And then the person brings me the collection and all that's left is the chafe, which I love, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's another part of it too. And I think that's kind of a different thing though, right? Like, I'm not if you're selling your comic books and someone picks out your keys, I mean, that's just going to happen, right? Like whether you're a garage sale, doing a claim sale online, you're a hobbyist, a trader, a local comic show, comic book store, that tends to be what happens regardless. And yeah, I'm not really sure where that fits into this context. But I understand that maybe that's what people do. They sell out the keys and then they drop off the bulk at comic book stores. And again, that is the tremendous value that comic book stores provide. And that's why like a lot of the bulk stuff, like, yeah, a comic store should pay like pennies on the dollar for a bunch of bulk, because the comic store is providing the value of the storage of these books so that collectors can come in and pick them up. So I think that that's great, but maybe that's not exactly what you're saying.
I'm a bottom feeder. I have 50-cent and dollar books all day long. That's my bread and butter. I buy collections. I don't buy single books. I would stand by that always. If people have a small collection, they bring me a handful of books like that, I will also take that. But people who come in with one book that's graded and they're like, oh, I'd like to sell this book, I'm not interested. There's lots of other comic shops that might be. I'm not. I want to move my risk across a collection. I'm not where you can dump your stuff that you can't sell. When he said that, it kind of painted all LCSs as we are looking to rob people when they come in. And he also had a lot to say about pricing books, repricing books. I don't understand.
Well, if that was the way you took it, that's not what I was implying. Certainly. Not all LCSs do this. There's so many great LCSs. I love the LCSs that I'm near. In fact, I actually prefer buying from LCSs. Of all the places I do my comic book shopping, like auction houses, eBay, comic cons, Instagram live sales, buying comics from my LCS is my favorite. You get to go in, you get to have the experience, you get to like chit chat with the LCS owner. You know, it's fun to see like what new things maybe pop up in the LCS. So it's my favorite place. So again, there's a lot of great LCSs that don't always do this. Again, what I was saying in the very specific context to what you're reacting to was me mentioning that having a graded comic book sometimes is necessary for the Never Slabbers, because sometimes having the graded comic book protects the people who don't know what they have from getting ripped off by some LCSs and some dealers.
Understand if he understands what an hourly wage is for an employee, or what I should pay myself as an owner to do all these tasks so that they can walk in and triple the value when they sell it. That's why.
Well, that part I was mostly talking about dealers needing to reprice their inventory when they go to comic book shows. And I understand it's a tremendous amount of work. It is a lot of work. In my letter, I said, hey, this is a lot of work, you know, to always have to reprice your things, to carry around boxes, to travel the country, you know, driving from show to show. And similarly to the LCS, I'm very sympathetic to what it takes to run this business. I mean, I don't do it. I couldn't do it. It's extremely hard. It's got to be one of the hardest retail businesses to be in. My point of that was, that's kind of the work though, right? Like it's kind of the work. You know, if you're a dealer and you are selling at a comic book show, the reason why you purchase collections 60% fair market value and make your 20%, which, you know, the other 20% goes to, you know, expenses, hard costs, and taxes, you know, 25, actually it's 28%. But, you know, the reason that you make that markup is because you're doing the work, right? You're figuring out what the prices are. You are setting up the booth. You are putting the comics on display, and you deserve that money so long as you do that work. That's all I was saying. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's certainly not easy work. It's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of work to reprice the books. But as a consumer, as a customer, I appreciate that. I appreciate going to comic shops and comic shows where dealers are on top of it and they have their prices up to date and I don't have to like, you know, see a 2021 price and negotiate them down 50%, at least from my perspective. And again, this is all just my perspective.
I am a reader-centric shop. Most of my back issues aren't priced. All my wall books are priced 20 to 30% below eBay. And I know you're going to say, well, that's not every shop. There's a lot of shops that don't do that. Right, but when you talked about us, you talked about us with a brush and painted us all into that scammer, cheater, you know, that we were a bigger scam than CGC.
I don't think that I said that that was a bigger scam than CGC. How many people out there inherited their parents' collection, their grandfather's collection, and got absolutely taken by LCSs across the country? Think of that scam. So many people have been taken by that. At least with grading, those people, those Karens, those moms, and those Kevins that don't know comic books are better protected.
And you even brought up how GPA only puts the pricing for CGC. So how is that not a bigger scam than the comics?
That's definitely a bigger scam. I don't think I said that the LCS ripping people off was the biggest scam. Not at all. I don't think that at all. The thumbnail that you actually pulled out was a clip out from my actual stream, and that was me talking about pricing guides. And we need all of the pricing companies, go collect GPA, cover price, etc., to start pricing comic books and not CGC sales. If you guys don't help do that, if the ecosystem doesn't help normalize the pricing, they will never be able to sell for the same on the secondary market as CGC. And we want them to because, again, competition is a good thing. All the pricing services are valuing graded comic books versus the comic book. And that was my letter to that one, where I felt like that was a really big thing that our hobby needs to take a look at if we want to sort of move away from, you know, this CGC controls everything and runs the entire market. You know, that's something that we have to certainly take a look at and discuss. And my letter was designed to sort of put out those issues to the community and have people, you know, make up their own minds about it.
But I like your show, man. And I think you really have you are a guy who really loves comics. And you're pretty much funding your habit by selling some books that you might come across that you don't want. And that's a great thing. That's fantastic. But there's a certain amount you can sell a year before you start to be treading on whether you should have a tax ID or not, and whether you should pay your taxes.
Why do you think I don't pay my taxes? Thank you for saying you like my show. And yeah, a lot of what my YouTube has been designed to be is my collecting blog, right? It's me sharing my experience with my own collection and hobby and how I go about it, and sort of the intricacies of trading and buying and selling and looking for deals and figuring out what my goals are and how the goals change over time, and then sharing that with people, because I think there's a lot of people out there that, you know, are going through it as well. You know, I'm a collector like everybody else, and sometimes it's helpful to, at least I think this, you know, when I watch other things non-comic related, yeah, right, like people doing DIY housing projects, like it's great to be able to see someone else going through something that you are also going through and need information on. So yeah, I sell stuff and yeah, I pay my taxes for it. You know, I have a business, you know, Swaggle House Entertainment is a business. You know, we have a YouTube channel here. I have a production company, we make films. I have a publishing company. I have a Kickstarter. You actually can't have a Kickstarter unless you have an EIN. Do you guys know that? Hey, Kickstarter V2 issues 2 and 3 coming out soon, guys. Link in the description. Give it a follow. I would appreciate it.
See, there's something that's happened I talked about this briefly, But I'm going to keep bringing it up because this is going to be a theme that I want to get out to America. The most worthless thing I say I have for sale, I have the most worthless thing in America for sale, and that's integrity. Because mine isn't. What has come about now is all this, we're pointing out all these problems, but we just keep doing it and keep going along with it as long as it's putting money in our pocket. And I don't believe in that. And a lot of people say, oh, you're a stupid businessman because you didn't take advantage of this. Well, that would be taking advantage of people. I know the books are not worth what they were selling for during that crazy time. So some books I didn't even sell. Some books did go to auction, but they were really good books. They weren't modern 1 in 200s, ghost variants, that kind of stuff.
I mean, one thing I will say is I don't feel like anything that I buy or sell or mostly talk about is like modern 1 in 200 stuff either, right? So I think the integrity thing is super, super important. And I agree with you there. I think integrity is really important. And no one is in my head, right? Nobody, you guys have a relationship with me. You watch my YouTube channel and people make their own assessments and judgments of who I am as a person and what my integrity is and what my intentions are and what's in my head and what I think. And if I'm pumping the market or I'm a speculator or whatever. And the truth is I can't really control how people view me, but all I can say is, I think that my integrity is not for sale either. I think that my intentions are in a good place, and people don't have to believe that, but this is how I sleep at night, is knowing what's in my own heart, because at the end of the day, only I can know what I actually think and what I actually believe and, what I actually want, from a YouTube channel and what I actually want to do. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think integrity is super, super important. And I agree that it's not always about money and maximizing, flipping and taking advantage of people and all that sort of thing. And, really that was the intention behind me doing my letters. My letters to the hobby was my way of sharing a lot of my thoughts and opinions, but obviously it's YouTube. I'm doing it in what I think is a funny, entertaining way. If you were just to ask me, my thoughts, I'd give you my true thoughts, and they would be somewhat in line to exactly what I said in that stream. And yeah, it can't always be about money. And I'm very, pro solutions. And a lot of what I talked about in that stream and a lot of what I talked about in those letters was me trying to offer solutions and feedback just from my perspective. Having that conversation in the community and in the ether is the important way to, make change. So anyways, that's kind of what my thought is on that one.
There's room for that for certain collectors. If that's your niche, that's fine. But I'm not going to profiteer on that in a time. It's just, that's how I'm built. A lot of people say I'm built different. Yeah, maybe. I got a lot of different views about the world and how it works. But when you have people going, I cheated, so I'm smart. No, you're amoral and you have no integrity. So the only way we get the stuff that we point out to change is if we put our money somewhere else. If we want books graded and sold at a fair price, and if the person getting the most money is the inferior product, we should put our money into the better product. You won't be able to turn and burn as fast, right? But if it's just a cash grab, like I said, go sell NFTs or something. That's what they're making comic books out into anyway. When you slab them up, it's basically just an NFT.
Well, that's also true. Like, kind of, I agree with you. And this is kind of what I was getting at with what I was saying with the pricing guides. What I feel and what I do is my own standard. But I'm also a realist. And so I don't necessarily fault other people for what they do. And kind of what you're getting at is like, at a certain point, is it really all about money? And for me, that answer is no. But at the same time, like, for a lot of people, it is. So my offered solution and what I was trying to get out there with the pricing guide thing is that, you have to incentivize people through the money aspect, even if that is, like depressing to think about. It's really important that they actually start to integrate data from all sales places, not just CGC. Because as long as they price CGC sales, then everything is downstream from CGC. They're pricing this particular grading company as opposed to the comic book.
Because it has a serial number put on by that company. It is a single one of one. No matter if it's a 9/8 and they say there's 30 9/8s, but there's only one 9/8 with this serial number, right? So if you had a really cool serial number, people in the community would pay extra for it. It's like when they have a numbered sports card, Michael Jordan's number 23. If it's 23 out of 100, you get a premium for that. If it's number 1 out of 100, you get a premium. If it's 100 out of 100, you get a premium. If it's a higher numbered card and it's a 420 or a 69, there's all these different niche collections that people can go after. But it's not the hobby, right? It's just a part of the hobby. Cash grabbing is what's hurting the person who wants to enjoy comics.
So that's kind of an interesting aspect to this and something I want to comment on. And not to say that this is actually what you were saying. And again, I'm not even necessarily sure if at this point in the video you're still directing this sort of at me and what I said. But I do want to talk a little bit about what my channel is and maybe some of the misconceptions that I think people have with what I try to create and do on my channel. For me, again, like I said, it's my collecting blog, and I try to share my experience and distill it down into what I would like to think are informative videos. And I do spend a lot of time talking about the financial side in comic books, but I'm not actually all that much interested as comic books as income, or, I talk a little bit about comic books as investments from time to time. I certainly have had content like that on my channel. And I think it can be an investment, if you want to think of it like that. I don't necessarily think it's the best investment, but it can be an alternative thing, But the point I'm trying to make is that I spend a lot of time talking about values, because what I try to do is help people understand like savvy buying and savvy collecting. One of the coolest things I think about this hobby is that you can actually set a goal and work towards that goal. You can actually work your way up to an AF-15. You can work your way up to a Superman 1. You could work your way up to an Action Comics 1. It's actually possible. It's a lot of work. It's very, very difficult. It's hard. It's not going to be easy, but you can do that. You can get there. And I try to do my best to talk about data and pricing and values so that people can navigate like what is essentially, a tough hobby to navigate to get to their grails, and also work towards, the grails that they actually want to get. It's not me always saying, hey guys, you're going to get rich if you just buy, Spider-Boy. That's actually most of the time I'm being facetious about that. I say Moon Boys on my channel all of the time because I'm actually making fun of that mentality of comic books. I understand not everybody always gets my humor, but I spend a lot of time talking about values. I spend a lot of time doing comic book indexes so I can help people make savvy purchasing decisions so that they can either make a good buy on the grail that they have, or they can understand the market so that they can then work towards whatever comic goal or grail that they have, that they want in their collection. And this is just that side of the hobby. Of course, there's a whole other side, which is just the collecting, just reading, just enjoying. And I love all that too. But there's plenty of channels that talk about that. There's plenty of channels that are dedicated to reading. There's plenty of channels that are dedicated to comic history. There's plenty of channels that are dedicated to, like just comic book stories and things like that. And that's great. And we need those channels. And I love watching those channels. And that's what they do. But I've kind of designed my channel to be something a little bit different, to kind of cater to or fill in the need for this part of the hobby as well. And I think that there's a lot of people that can find that part of the information useful. for at least their journey. And even though some people think that it's all about like money for me, you know, I know most people don't always think that, but the occasional comment will come my way and say like, oh, he's just a pump and dump speculator. And it's like, that's not actually what I'm doing here. But I can't convince those people.
Out there on the trail, and somebody's selling books and they offer it at a price, I'm not telling you to tell them, oh, that's a $10 book, I'm going to give you more. You'll see that on YouTube, and that comes from American Pickers. After their first season, that's what they started doing. They started overpaying for everything, so that people wouldn't complain that they were being cheated. You're not cheating them. There's a lot of, when I buy a collection, I have to sort it. I have to organize it. I have to bag and board it. Maybe I have to press a book. Maybe I have to categorize it and I have to put it all out for sale. There's a lot of work involved, and that has to go into what you pay for a collection. If the collection's all bagged and boarded, of course you're going to get a higher price. If all the books have water damage, of course they're going to get a lower price. It doesn't matter, you know, if you have a very great book in there. If it's damaged, it's not. If it's a 1 or a 2, it's not worth a lot of money.
Yeah, that's absolutely part of the work, and absolutely is why a dealer or a store should make a markup on collections that they buy, or books, or, you know, collections that they get. Like, of course they shouldn't be paying like the actual price. Of course they should be paying whatever it is, 50%, 60%, whatever you guys actually think is the fair market number that people should be getting. Again, my little main thesis thing that we started this video talking about was in the occasional situations where an LCS has gotten a short box come in and there's an AF-15 in there mixed with a bunch of dollar books, and they just say, hey, here's $50 for your short box, which I can confirm that has happened, you know. And so those are the ones, corner cases, that I was referring to.
There's a lot of reasons why books collections come in, they sell at different prices, even identical in books. It's how they were kept, what kind of situation they were kept in, and, you know, whether I need it or not. So then also you got to remember, since I'm buying collection, they don't have to worry about being cherry picked. They also don't have to worry about starting an eBay account, not being seen, having all their stuff at the bottom of the lists, having to pay to move their stuff up the list, getting hit for 20%, then sending the book to somebody who says, oh, you didn't tell me about this dent on the back of the book, I want to return it. Then you're paying all the return fees, and then you're having to relist it. All that time and money that you're spending, they come in, we go over it, and it's a negotiation again. They don't have to say yes. They can say no. It's business, right? So I look over the collection. I tell them what I'm willing to pay. Maybe there is some room bouncing back and forth. Maybe, you know, I kept 100 back so that if the person's not willing, then I'll move in 100. You know, that's business. People have to be prepared to do that. To say that we're scamming them and robbing them, I really have a problem with that. So even though later on...
Again, not what I was saying. Everything you just laid out is 100% true. And it's very good information for people to know. You know, these are the things like, again, I'm not a comic book dealer. I deal some comic books, and I've bought collections before, but these are all of the things that you have to have as far as a conversation with the people who you're buying their comic books for, you know, or from. This is a part of it. You know, you guys have to, the store in this case, or the dealer, has to take on the work aspect of what it takes to sell the comic books, and you have to take on the risk that comes with it. Maybe you buy a comic book collection that is, you know, missing all the ad pages. You know, there's a lot of risk. You know, you buy stuff that is all restored. You know, there's a lot of risk with this. So I understand that you have to protect yourself. And again, that's not what I was getting at. I'm talking about the situations where I've heard stories. You know, I know comic stores. We've had conversations on the channel, you know, in Swaggle House about this, of, you know, an unsuspecting person who inherited grandpa's collection and bringing it into a shop, and them not being so transparent with what it was in there. And had those comic books been graded, that might have been a situation that could better protect those people.
You kind of glorified LCSs and how much you love us and how much you want to us to stay around. That one part really hurt because, you know, we do put a lot of time and effort into having a place for what the hobby can be. And you can come by and talk comics for hours and don't even have to buy a comic. I have guys that have a pull box at a different shop and come here to talk comics. And I'm not throwing them out because I love talking comics. And, you know, while they're here, maybe I'll talk to them about a book that I read that they'd never heard of, and I have. And they'll buy that book. It really is a community. I know a lot of people are saying that it isn't. There's portions of it that are outside of the community that don't know what's going on in comics, just know what's the hot book. What can I get my hands on? They know that this old timer who has a shop, he doesn't go through his books. I'm going to raid his bins. And so all the money that he could have made. And I can see that why some guys say, well, now I'm looking up all the books because they don't have time. Or maybe they're in bad health because they're old timers. There's a lot of situations that people don't see in the running of a small business. They just think it's easy. Well, if it was easy, like I said, put a sign up outside. Get your tax ID number.
I definitely do not think that it is easy. I've said many times on my channel that it is a lot of work and that stores provide tremendous value. And again, I think I mentioned this already in the stream already, but it was my critique of Marvel and DC publishing and how I felt like the comic book stores have been doing all of the work for Marvel and DC publishing, creating the communities, marketing, you know, shaking hands and kissing babies, doing all of that work that these publishing companies should be doing. And it's a shame. And they're extremely lucky to have LCSs be doing this because more often than not, the LCSs are the ones that are passionate about the material and the hobby. You know, I think that this would be true. I don't know how you feel, but like I'm sure that there's a lot of LCS owners that feel this way. Like, you know, there's a lot of retail business that you can go in, and maybe there's retail business that would actually be easier than doing a comic book shop. But most people get into comic book retail and shop owning because they love it. They're so passionate about it. And so I am eternally thankful that there are people that do it. I really am.
Start selling your books. Then the collections will come to you. And then, you know, if you feel that we all scam them, then you can scam them too. I'm a pretty positive guy. There's a lot of negative stuff going on. I'm bringing it to you and I'm giving you my point on it. And instead of focusing on the problem, I want to focus on the solution. And we all need to have this much more integrity, right? This much more. If we all move to the people doing the right thing, then more people will do the right thing. We can shout and yell at CGC, and everybody sees that they were completely tone deaf when they put out their Instagram with, we're at MegaCon. Of course we're at MegaCon. Of course we're grading all your books 9.8 if you pay us. Yeah, it's a completely tone deaf with the...
Yeah, that was really bad. Maybe next time when I do a letter, if I do another letter segment, you know, go full Karen, I'm going to do a letter to the marketing department of CGC. What were you guys thinking?
All the problems they've had recently, but they're out there, you know, because they still got to make money to pay the employees they have. I think that they're doing a bad job of doing damage control, and this could hurt them pretty bad. CGC have that much more integrity, man. That much more integrity. And I'll tell you, go watch Swaggle House's video on his open letters to the comic community because the stuff he said about CGC and CBCS were right on. Go check it out. And go watch us on the Rewind over at Beyond Wednesdays. Watch my show on Tales from the Flip Side. And hey, thanks a lot for coming and watching. I know this is a little bit different video out of the realm. I mean, I am shouting at people, but it's not directly about comic books. But I do want to say from my brothers and sisters in the comic business, LCSs, a little thing out to you guys is I love you. I really do. I think you do a tremendous job. No two comic shops the same. Even ones that are franchised, they're very different. You have to meet your community that you have and work from that and keep reading comics.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. That was the video. Haven for Heroes, CGC update, and more lawn yelling at Swaggle House. Give Haven for Heroes a sub. Like them up. Again, you know, I think that this was, you know, there's a lot of stuff in this video. It's like most of everything that you said, I actually agree with. And I think that maybe there was just a little bit of a miscommunication, misunderstanding. I don't think that all LCSs are the scam. Again, it was a contextual thing. And, I'm being performative in my stream. But I don't know. Maybe I hate LCSs. I guess that could be where I am. But let's check some of the comments, guys. See me get roasted here. 21 million says, "You are spot on. Time to push back a little on this influencer brainwashing that is out there. I think breaking up collections because of key speculation is just plain sad." Am I influencer brainwashing, guys? It's so funny, You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I remember when my YouTube channel was just starting out and I was the same person with the same intentions, with the same collecting goals, doing the same type of comment or content. And everything was okay. But then you got to a certain point where it's like, oh, now you are the dirty influencer. Very much enjoy the content offered by this channel. It's so important to not forget the roots of comic collecting and tremendous pleasures it provides. Keep them coming. I agree. I mean, again, I think I've already said in this video, so I won't beat the dead horse here. There's a lot of wonderful aspects to comic books. There's a lot of niches within our own hobby. And my channel tends to be one that tries to provide a little bit of value and context towards the one savvy buying aspect of it. If you are somebody who wants to buy that grail because you cherish these collectibles, I try to help offer my thoughts in that. Yes, I don't do comic book reading reviews. It's just not something that I've attempted to do or I've built my channel around. I read a lot of comic books, all the time. I love comic books. I wrote a comic book. I work in entertainment. I love culture. I love this stuff. But I don't spend too much time talking about it, because I feel like the value I provide, the channel that I have, is a specific thing. Let's see if there's anything here that's about me or about what I specifically said. I mean, should we do one of these guys? Swaggle House, Control F. Uh-oh. I see Swaggle House video the other day. It was more like a report in the New York Stock Exchange. Very soulless. Again, I think that was me doing my comic book index video, and I've already mentioned what the goal of the comic book index video is. There's my video on the side. Okay, nothing else really important. All right, well, I think that, we can sort of wrap it up there, guys. That was me doing a reaction to Haven for Heroes. Hey, this is part of the conversation. You put your stuff out there for the world. People are going to react to it. People have different opinions, and that's great. We're having conversation. I thought that I would give my reaction to add additional context into what he was saying, and hopefully you guys understand both our perspectives, and you guys can make up your own opinion. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this. Anyways, I'm going to go hunt some collections and pay grandma 20 cents on the dollar. So with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and like, comment, subscribe. See you on the next one.